We are very excited to be here today. My name is Ranjit Purush. I'm the product manager in the next generation data center computing group at Dell. I have a few of my colleagues here who are going to assist me with the presentation here today. We have Ganesh Patmanabhan, who's a technical marketing manager in the same team. And we have Ujjwal Rajbandari, who's somewhere in the audience here. If you could get up, there he is. Who's also in the technical marketing team in the next generation data center computing team. So what we wanted to do today is really share with you some of the ideas that we have been working on over the last year and a half in terms of how do you improve data center efficiencies and really take you into that next generation data center, give you a path to get to the next generation data center. So we have shared some information with you all in the last 6 months, 8 month time frame around a portfolio called Virtual Integrated System. That's kind of the product portfolio name that we have for what we call next-generation data center computing. So before we go into the details, really how we will structure the presentation today is spend maybe the first half hour giving you an overview of what the solution is, what the capabilities are at a pretty high level, and then spend the next 20 minutes where Ganesh will actually walk you through a product demo so that you can actually see the capabilities that we have in the product itself, and then open up for questions in the last 10 minutes. Okay. So before we begin with the actual product itself, a little bit of background on our strategic relationship with VMware. So our relationship with VMware goes a long way back. I actually remember back in 2001, I was actually involved directly in doing some early product evaluations of what ESX 2.1 or 1.9 or whatever it was. And virtualization has really come a very long way since then, right? So when you think about virtualization today, it's no longer about consolidation. It's no longer about speeds and feeds. It's no longer about how many VMs can I put on a core. They all really matter. But what you use virtualization today for is really to drive flexibility and dynamic capabilities in your IT environment. So that's really what we want to talk about today. So talking to a lot of our customers, what we have found out is in defining an IT environment that drives flexibility and dynamic capabilities, you need a certain set of attributes. And what we have found these common set of attributes to be is you want a process that is completely automated, or at least gives you the capability to be completely automated. You want an infrastructure that allows you to do dynamic resource pooling. So what we really mean by that is typically in an IT environment, you do have silos. And what I mean by silos is not in a bad way. You have resources that you buy, assets that you acquire, and you try to put them into groupings. So your HR department wants a set of servers, you acquire servers, you put that into an HR group. Your finance team wants a bunch of servers, you get them, you put that to a resource group. Now, your backup jobs may be done by a set of dedicated servers. So that's how it works today. But what we understand is you want the capability to also move these resources between these silos that you have created. So if you have maybe 10 servers that you have dedicated to an HR group, and the finance group wants that for some reason for a period of time, you want the capability to actually move these so that you have resources where you really need them. Third is around streamlined self-service consumption. So you want the capability to actually empower your end users. So not just empowering end users because they know exactly what they need in most cases, but also removing things from your plate. So as an IT administrator, you want to move away from spending time on daily menial activities, not just on keeping the lights on activities. You want to spend time on strategic initiatives. And fourth is around flexible sourcing options. And so what that means is, say you are a finance team and you are an end of quarter coming up. So you basically want a lot more number crunching capabilities during that time frame, maybe that 1 week at the end of the quarter. So what we want is that you want the IT environment to be flexible so that your less critical processing happens and an off-premise location. This could be a cloud or whatever other model, so that now you can use your more critical local resources to your processing of your more sensitive data. So these are kind of the 4 attributes that we identified as what you need to get to a dynamic data center. So how do you get there? So Dell's position is that it's really a dual-pronged approach. You have an evolutionary approach, and you have a revolutionary approach. So what do you mean by that? So traditionally, what we do is we have an application that's tied to an operating system that's tied to an hardware. Right? This is before virtualization. Now, in our evolutionary approach, is really about building on top of virtualization. So what we mean by that is now you have an application that is actually tied to an operating system. An operating system is now in a container. It could be a virtual machine. It moves around. You're getting a level of dynamic capabilities there. And your revolutionary approach is where it's more platform-oriented. So you have your application actually talking to not a specific operating system. It's talking to a platform that gives you scalability, redundancy, and all those capabilities that you don't have to care about. So there are many manifestations of an evolutionary and revolutionary model, but what we believe is these coexist. So it's not a choice in either or. It is about giving you a solution that provides both of these capabilities, or at least a path to both of these capabilities. So, when we were going down the path of actually building that solution, we had 3 key design tenets. And these are extremely important, and you'll see this manifested in the product that we'll actually deliver. One is about open architecture. This is fundamental to our design. So what that means is we provide you a software solution that actually supports a heterogeneous environment, be it hardware, hypervisor, or software. And we'll show you some of the key highlights of what that actually means in the next few slides. Second is about being integrated. So we understand that your ecosystem is not going to be just a bunch of solutions that you get from one vendor. You have multiple solutions that you have today, and an ecosystem needs to be able to talk to the elements between each other. So what we build is a solution that gives you that integration capability so that you're able to leverage the key components of your ecosystem. And this is purely a path to our next step of being automated. Integration in itself is not the end-all, right? Integration is a path that lets you build an automation framework wherein you have all of these elements in your ecosystem actually having automated tasks built on top of the integration that we offer. So at the end of it, this open, integrated, and automated architecture is giving you as a customer choice, flexibility, and agility. So you kind of understand kind of our design principles of how we are developing the product. And the VIS architecture's value propositions are actually what you're seeing on that pie chart on the left. I'll go through each one of these to give you an idea of what that means. Starting with infrastructure provisioning on the left side, top. So one thing that we have heard very loud and clear from you is that the amount of time it takes from pallet to production, this is about a server coming into your data center in a rack, and actually that server becoming a productive entity is, the lead time for that is extremely long. It's days, and in most cases, it's weeks. In this dynamic environment that we live in, that's almost unacceptable. So what the VIS solution lets you do is, we are a software solution that lets you get that server that you got into your data center up and running in minutes. And that's not an exaggeration. You set up the infrastructure, and as soon as you get a server, you plug it into the rack of your choice. You do not need to have your server, storage, and network admins come to a meeting and agree on certain configurations. You rack and stack it. The server admin now has the capability to actually get whatever workload you need up on that server in minutes. You'll see that in the demo that Ganesh is going to show you. Second is around resource tiering. So we talked about the whole aspect about creating silos. So we respect that. So we see that's reality. So we let you create those silos. But most importantly, as I said earlier, it's about giving you the capability to move resources between these silos. So you have an HR group, you have servers, you take one server from here, you move it into a finance group, and then take it back to HR once your demands of finance is done. And all of this pretty much in a touch of a button, and no exaggerations. So we talked about the physical aspects here, right? So you talked about actually provisioning of a physical server and creating pools and tiers. So the next level is actually workload provisioning. How do you provision an actual image on the server after you have created these servers and created these pools? What we do is the VIS solution actually gives you two options. Most often, you actually may have an image deployment process in your environment. Now, you could be having third-party tools that allow you to do the image provisioning. In such a scenario, we leverage that to allow you to use the existing processes to blow down images on your servers. If not, we'll provision new processes for you to actually make that image provisioning happening. So this is not just about provisioning of images, though. This is about actually defining IT policies that will actually allow you to provision the images. So what that means is, say you have a bunch of Windows 2003 Exchange Server images that you have in your repository, and you know what kind of resource tiers it has to end up going into. When the deployment, when the initiation of the deployment happens, IT policies would actually kick in and ensure that the deployment happens in the right set of hardware. So the actual IT admin doesn't have the manual intervention needed to make sure that happens consistently every time. So we talked about initiation. So typically today, it is the IT admin who initiates that. So what about actually having the end user initiate that? The problem that IT admins have today in letting end users provision is, do we know that the end users know exactly what they need? So this is where business policies comes in. So in the self-service portal, which is that fourth pie chart you see in the bottom, the self-service portal is about giving a web portal where an end users can come in and request for a workload. Now, they can only see the workloads that you, as the IT admin, has actually allowed them to see. And you can customize the offering, whether it be based on cost, based on service tiers, based on performance. The actual criteria that you use to define what separates each of the options the customer sees, or the end user sees, is up to you. The VIS solution just gives you the capability to provision the right workload to the right end user. Now, an issue with self-service portals is, how do you, even with these policies, how do you ensure that there is no VM sprawl? So users can come in and request for as many workloads as they need. That's where approvals kick in. So the self-service portal allows you to define as many approvals as you want. This be business owners, this be IT administrators. That way we are proactively addressing VM sprawl control. So far we have talked about the provisioning of the physical resources, and after the fact, the provisioning of the actual workloads that go on those physical resources. And you probably understand the level of dynamicity that you have in all of these areas, or each of these areas. So now once you have that environment up and running, how do you manage it in the most effective manner? One of the things that we hear consistently about, and this applies mostly in a virtualized environment, is that my environment is pretty complex. So when people talk about complexity, when people say something is complex, it's because they don't understand it. And what we have striven to do is really give you a lot of visibility into that stack. So virtualization, it can get pretty complex. It's a fact. You have so many new layers. You have your application sitting in a VM that's got a guest operating system, talking to a hypervisor, talking to shared resources. So without the right set of tools, you have no visibility into actually seeing what application would be impacted if a storage array has a high I/O happening on a particular spindle. So VIS gives you, that's just one example, VIS gives you tools to give you that deep level of visibility into your infrastructure and how the elements of your infrastructure depend on each other, right? And I think that's extremely key to really understanding your infrastructure and using it in the most effective manner. So second is, so you have the visibility around from a technology perspective, performance perspective. The second set of visibility is around cost basis. So cost is sensitive, right? So it really depends on what your use case is. So if you're a service provider, you probably want to actually recover costs from your customers. So you're offering a service using a self-service portal. You allocate costs to each of the resources, and you can track it based on utilization, and then offer a price point to the end user. Now, if you're an IT environment that is actually doing a cost recovery-based operation, then you can do a cost allocation, see how much each business unit is actually using, and charge that to the business unit at the end of the month, end of the financial time period. Or if you're just an IT environment that really doesn't go into that level of chargeback, then this could be just a tool that you use to get visibility into how much money you are spending on IT. I mean, that's powerful. Just really knowing from a CIO perspective, how much of money am I spending on IT based on real costs that you have incurred on server, storage, networking components. And the last piece of the pie is around capacity planning and trending. So what that means is, so far we've been talking about the now. How do I get my servers up and running now? How do I provision workloads now? How do I get visibility into my environment now? Now, if you have a tool that actually keeps track of the usage trends in your environment, be it computing, be it storage utilization, or whatever, it actually can help you, it can predict what your resource requirements are going to be in the future. As an example, it can keep track of how you've been using your storage over the last 6 months and give you a trend of where you will be in the next 6 months if this particular trend continues. Same thing with VMs. So if your VMs have been growing in a certain rate, at what point would you need to add a new server into your cluster? So that's, again, based off of actual usage scenarios and can really help you if you actually have a consistent usage trend. Now, in scenarios when you're really not able to predict that usage trend, you have what-if scenario capabilities. So what that means is if you're, say, an insurance company, and you want to know will my physical infrastructure be able to support me if I have 4 hurricanes hitting 4 different parts of the U.S. You can really have what-if scenarios to say, what happens if I need 100 more VMs with this level of throughput, performance level happening on each VM? Will my current physical infrastructure be able to do it? If not, what should change to make that happen? So it gives you specific recommendations on not only what you're missing, but what you actually need to have in place. So at a high level, I've kind of hit on the key value propositions of VIS. So I know I didn't go into details. Ganesh will walk you through a demo, and we have booth number 401. You're glad to come and visit us. We'll give you a hands-on demo of each of these products and its capabilities. But holistically, what I want you to walk away with is we have these core capabilities that are targeted at task and time compression, which will help you get to an efficient data center. So that was the kind of the what. Let's talk about the how a little bit. So when you talk about the VIS architecture, we are delivering it we're kind of separating it into 2 components. We have what's called the Dell VIS infrastructure layer and the Dell VIS delivery center. So the Dell VIS infrastructure component is what's responsible for marshaling of all of these physical resources. So we talked about, if you remember the pie chart, the first 2 around provisioning of images and tiering of resources, that's delivered by the VIS infrastructure layer. And today, the one product that makes that happen within that infrastructure layer is a product called Advanced Infrastructure Manager, or AIM. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's a product that is based off of technologies that we acquired from Scalent about a few months back. We've been working with Scalent for about over 2 years now, and since their acquisition, we have been able to get a lot of IP and do a lot of good integration with from our perspective. So the AIM product actually forms an extreme strong foundation upon which we are building the whole VIS strategy. The delivery center is focused on IT process automation and about giving you that deep level of visibility that we have been talking about. So the two components there is, one, the self-service creator. So as the name suggests, that is the product that offers that self-service portal that end users can come on and provision and request for provisioning of resources. And in the back end, it's going to automatically have workflows that provision the resources on the right physical assets. And the VIS Director product is the product that's responsible for giving you that holistic IT environment view and also support capacity planning, usage trending, and service tier management. So the aspect that you see in the middle, called Integration Suite, is actually not a product in itself. It is Dell's commitment that all of these solutions that we're offering in the VIS space is not going to result in console sprawl. We've heard it very loud and clear that you do not want yet another console that you have to go to. So our design principle there is that we follow kind of an 80-20 rule. What that means is, on an average, you spend more than 80% of your time on 20% of the tasks that an element manager offers. So this could be the DMCs of the world, Open Manage, ITA, whatever you call it. There are about 20% of the key tasks that you perform most of the time. So our strategy is to take those 20% of the tasks and actually have it available in your VMware vCenter console so that you do not have to keep changing your consoles just to hit that key tasks that you do on a mainstream basis. So the strategy is not to replace the element manager. The strategy is to make sure that you have the capability to use the console that you already spend the most amount of time on to do the management of VIS managed elements. So at a high level, I think I've hit on those, in that pie, I hit on the key value propositions we are offering. I want to focus a little bit on AIM now. So we talked about infrastructure provisioning and resource tiering. So what that lets you do when you do a double click is, it lets you have high availability without actually having software that specifically is dedicated to high availability. So what that means is, you could have a workload that's running on a server, and if that server happens to have any issues that's preventing that workload from being served on it, the AIM software will automatically reprovision that software on another server that you have actually said is going to be my backup server. And the actual workload itself doesn't have to be HA aware at all. This happens from the actual physical layer itself. And now the failover from that primary server could happen to a virtual machine. So it doesn't have to always failover to a physical box. So what that means is, if you have a scarcity of physical servers, you could have one server that's your N+1 server that is running 20 VMs, which are actually the failover targets to actually the 20 physical servers that you have in your environment. So it's not just P2P, it's P2V, and it's also V2V, wherein we can actually move workloads across hypervisors. So you could have a workload that's running on VMware, and if you have an issue for whatever, the use case is, it's really open to you all. But you could have a workload running on VMware, and for whatever reason you want to move it into a Hyper-V environment, it's as easy as touching a button. And Ganesh will show you some examples of that. I think I've covered all the topics on the slide. So we also talked about self-service creator, it being the workload deployment automation piece and the self-service portal. The one other item I want to talk about is sprawl control. So we talked about how it proactively does sprawl control by having business policies and IT policies. But the other thing you can do is, today you could have requested for a virtual machine to be deployed, and you probably had a very good reason for asking for that. So it was business justified, and people approved it. But reality is, a year from now, 2 years from now, that VM is probably not going to be used. So what the tool lets you do is, lets you identify VMs that you have, using whatever metrics that you think really matter. For example, if you say every VM that's not been logged on for the last 6 months meets my criteria of an unused VM, that could be the metric. If you identify VMs that have not been using more than 5% of CPU and memory for the last 1 year, that's a metric that you use to identify VMs that are, unused, I think. So once you identify the VMs based on whatever metric you want, the system will let you create workflows that you can use to reclaim the resources. The workflow could be as simple as delete the VM, or it could be more elaborate. It could be take the VM, archive it to a third-tier storage, and archive it for 15 days, following which delete it. So what you want to do at the reclamation point is up to you. We just provide you the capabilities to identify VMs that are unused and let you do what you want to do with them. And the VIS Director piece, we've touched upon its capability as a capacity planning tool, as a tool that gives you in-depth view into your data center. The one other aspect I want to highlight is its capability to do service tier management. So an example, what I want to talk about is, say if you have an Exchange virtual machine, if you want to monitor the service level availability of that Exchange machine, it is not as simple as just monitoring Exchange. You have to monitor the Exchange, you have to monitor the guest operating system that Exchange is running on, you have to monitor the hypervisor, you have to monitor the server that's running on, and the cluster that's running on, and the storage. So it goes back to that dependency mapping we are talking about. So what VIS Director lets you do is create a container, an entity that includes all of these elements, and then track that as a single element with a yellow, green, red status. So at that point, if you really want to know at a granular level what that service level is for that Exchange application, you have a one-shot simple view to track that capability. So we already talked about our integration suite and our console management strategy. So what you will see is in the demo in our booths, we're taking that first step with our AIM product. So AIM today has a plugin that actually will plug into the VMware vCenter console to give you that same 80-20 rule. So you see those capabilities that are highlighted on the right side, which really are 20% of the tasks. AIM is a very robust tool, and each of those solutions are very extensible. But what you see on the right side are the key things that we expect as a virtualization admin for you to be utilizing, and that's the capabilities we add into the plugin. So at this point, I think we've given you an overview. I've been talking. Overview of what the capabilities of the product are. I invite Ganesh now to drive you through a demo where you actually see these capabilities in action. And about 9:50, we'll also maybe wrap it up and for questions and answers.
Q&A.
Yep.
Thanks, Ranjit. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Good morning, folks. And that's really, really, really excited to be here. And it's my first VMworld here. Glad to see the room filled up and get a chance to talk to you guys. We are really, really excited to be here with VIS and our virtual integrated system to showcase, to get some feedback from you guys and talk about Dell's vision of our next generation data center. And hang on, while we have the AV problems being resolved. So we've been talking to, as Ranjit mentioned, talking to customers, analysts, partners, everybody for the last 4 or 5 years, and been working on trying to define our vision and our product portfolio to enable and make the next generation data center more efficient, right? And I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of how we're going to go about doing it. So, in the interest of making sure that hang on a sec. So one thing I did was originally I was planning to have remote connect into our system down at the booth and to showcase the demonstration. But then in the morning with the network connectivity and stuff, and also to expedite it to make sure you don't have to wait for screens to transition, I did a Camtasia capture so I can show you the demo as it is, how the solution works as an end-to-end integrated stack. You can, of course, walk into our booth, and me and our team will be glad to walk you down into each of those individual components of VIS. As Ranjit mentioned, the self-service creator, the advanced infrastructure manager, and VIS director, and actually show you a live demo, let you play around with it a little bit, to take some feedback and listen to what you guys think about it. All right. So how I'm gonna play this out is show you a scenario wherein the virtual integrated system has got two aspects of it, right? So there are two players in this demonstration. One is your end user, or your IT end user. In my case here in the demo, it's an application administrator who's coming in and requesting for a virtual machine, and he needs that to be serviced. Traditional IT environments, pick up the phone, call the IT admin, or go into your trouble ticketing tool, put a request in there, and then it goes into the IT black hole. The whole thing takes its own sweet time, and then comes back, and the end user has it, right? Automating that whole process, one of our key visions of the virtual integrated system, as you saw, right? We have self-service creator, as Ranjit talked about, which allows you not just provide a self-service portal for the end user, but it actually builds the life cycle of that particular virtual resource. In my case, in this demonstration's case, the virtual machine, right? It defines who has the rights to request it, what kind of provisioning method is going to be used, what kind of approval process that virtual machine is going to be in there, and the life cycle of that VM. How long should it live, and how much should it, what is the action that needs to happen at the end of its life, the entire life cycle of that VM. So I'm going to show you an end user coming in, requesting for a virtual machine, and that will be using the VIS self-service creator. And you're going to go through the process where what the user will see, what the experience will be. And it's, as Ranjit mentioned, it's a catalog-based approach to provide service to the IT user. All right. So this screen that you see here, there are two things. It is what the IT end user will come to for requesting a resource, right? There are two things, and only two things you can do here. One is requesting a new virtual machine or a new virtual resource, and whatever that, if it's a physical machine or a virtual machine with a particular guest OS and an application on it, however you package it as a template, right? But that is, that's what you're going to see here. And then the other thing the IT user can do here is to manage those machines, right? So it takes away the necessity to provide virtual center access to the IT user to go and manage and reboot his machine and do patches or things like that. So I'm going to show you this, and this will be the user experience. We'll go through it, and I'll pause, and then I'll show you another video of what the administrator is going to go do. So to play out the whole story, the IT user comes in, requests for a virtual machine. He gets his request done, self-service, no manual intervention here. The whole process is automated. On the other hand, what I'm also simulating in my environment, and you'll see that downstairs at our booth, is a scenario where this virtual machine request causes an infrastructure action, two specific actions. One being there is a metric I'm monitoring, two triggers I'm monitoring in the environment, which is what is my virtual machine to physical machine? What's my consolidation ratio? And if that ratio goes over my comfort level, which I've set as 2.5, go ahead and provision a new physical machine, add it to the add it to the virtual cluster, add it to my cluster, and get it ready for with ESX on it. The other thing I'm monitoring is the capacity of my data store to see if the utilization goes over 60%. provision a new LUN, add it, create a data store on it, and add it to the cluster. So you'll see that the two alarms that I'm monitoring is going to also kick off automatic remediation actions. And it's all done by VIS as a solution. And I'll also talk to you when I walk through different screens. But the touch point here for the whole story of IT user coming and requesting something, the only place the user does any manual intervention is the self-service creator. So in this screen, as I said, two things the user can do. The My Machines, he comes in, he can go and manage his machines that he has created using self-service creator or requested, and then the request machine aspect. So I'm going to walk you through a request machine process, and then we'll come back and see what kind of management options the user has. It's, again, defined by the administrator. But here's a scenario where the user goes, this is the first screen the user will see. He comes in, I'm going to request a VM, I'm going to request my machine, and hold on a sec, request machine. And then I want to just pause here just a second. What you see here is the catalog. This is built by the virtualization administrator, the VM administrator, to say, this user who has the following rights, by the way, this is integrated into Active Directory. So as per the rights and role of this user, here are the list of options he or she will see to be requested for his requests. So in this case, I have the application administrator has got options to view a production-based environment and virtual machines that can be actually done there, and also development actions. So, and then all he has to do, also the other thing, while you open up the development, a couple of things here. One is the fact that individually you can see the lease and the number of days. That's our way to proactively control VM sprawl, right? You set the directory, you drive a change in behavior for the IT user to say, go ahead and when you request this VM, it's going to last for X number of days. Number one problem in the IT, if you're an IT and you're providing virtual machine access to test dev people, is VM sprawl. I mean, if you let me do it, I'll create 200 virtual machines every day and then let it run, and I don't have to worry about managing them ever, right? So things like that. The other thing that you see there in the next one is the archive days, which is basically the action I want to take at the end of the life cycle. Do I want to archive it? Do I want to create a snapshot and just expire it? Do I re-provision the VM? Define that. And this catalog, by the way, can be defined by the virtual administrator at the start of day, one-time setup, to say, this is my blueprint for every virtual machine template that I'm creating. Right? This is how long it should live. These are the default values of the physical memory and storage and CPUs, number of CPUs for that virtual machine. Default, the IT user can come request it, everything goes fine. Now, in the next in the next screen, I'll actually show you the ability for the user to get more than what he's actually prescribed to do, which will kick off an automatic approval process. Going through this, just quickly, just showing out different screens, and you'll see that the request goes in, select a particular virtual machine. Default values out there, as you see. If the user wants more, he can request it, which will kick off an approval process, which will automatically, again, it's Active Directory based, it'll automatically kick off an approval to wherever you set the approval to be. And once it's done, the request is done. This is all the touch point in making this happen, right? I want to actually show you this, where the different options the user has once the machine is requested. Is this, right? It's a little too fast for me. So these options that the user has on the screen can again be, these are the management options for the virtual machine, which is prescribed beforehand by the IT administrator, by the virtual administrator, to say, if you don't want the user to go ahead and reboot and re-provision machines, you don't have to provide that option. Again, customizable, right? The fact that our architectures can be integrated. If you have another snapshot system in place and you want to kick off an automatic backup of VMs or a snapshot, you can integrate that as a workflow to be available for the user here, right? So in a traditional IT environment, this is, just talking to customers and talking to analysts. This is about 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 man-hours spread across a couple of days for a virtual machine to be done, just because of the dependency on different silos of, the server department, the storage department, and also the networking department. What we saw right now was the end user experience with VIS, right? That's clean as it is, just a quick one, couple of clicks. You saw there were 3 mouse clicks, and you got a virtual machine provision. The tough part now, right? I'm going to just open up another capture that I've done. Is what the IT administrator or the operations administrator will see during this whole process, right? One second. This is a VIS director. So, real quick, this is the operation admin's interface. Now, you'll also see that, I'm just going to come in here so that I can walk you through a couple of things. What I have set up is a customizable dashboard for what I, as an administrator, want to see when I log in my environment. What you're going to see is, because the user, requested a virtual machine, you'll see that little count that I am monitoring, average VMs per host, go up, and it should kick off an infrastructure action, which is to provision a new physical machine. We'll also see here, and there will be an alarm posted here. There'll be, this storage capacity I'm monitoring on the data store, and you'll see that is going to go get more than 60% in utilization. So it'll automatically kick off a workflow to have Advanced Infrastructure Manager provision a new storage volume as well. Going through the process, just in a few seconds, you'll see that this particular, now the capacity just went up. You'll see an alarm being posted. But while this happens, also the other thing that I'm going to switch to in this video is these screens where the Ecologic Group Manager, which is my storage array, where a LUN is going to be provisioned. So when the infrastructure event happens that my storage capacity is over the limit and I have to provision a new LUN, you'll see the Dell Advanced Infrastructure Manager will go and provision a new LUN in the Ecologic Group Manager. Now, this is a screenshot of the Dell Advanced Infrastructure Manager, or AIM. As Ranjit pointed out, a couple of things. The ability to actually create your own virtual environment through drag and drop. One click, one button. Eventually what you have to do is, what you want to do is get your physical machine, rack it up, cable it. As long as our AIM controller can talk to it over the network, walk away, you can configure it entirely through software, entirely through the AIM interface around here. Right? What you're seeing right now is a virtual view of my environment, and these are the existing 6 VMs running, and these are the 2 physical machines that are actually on. Because of the need for a new physical machine to be provisioned, and you'll see that happens when you have the virtual to physical host ratio goes about 2.5, you'll see that this ESX host, which is now shut down, is going to get automatically booted up, put an ESX image on it, and it's going to be added to the virtual center cluster and have it ready for operation. Kind of running out of time, so I can leave some time for Q&A for you guys. So, just saw that particular machine just got booted up, and this is live. This you can walk down to our boot 401. We can show you how this actually works, and deep dive into any single console if you want to. What you see here is Ecologic Group Manager. Now, my environment is set up on the iSCSI storage arrays from Ecologic. But again, we can integrate into existing FC investments that customers have and stuff like that as well. So what you're going to see is there are actually 5, or I should say, the map data 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the volume. Just that 5 just got added. I'm not sure if you guys were watching that, but that was a 5th LUN that was being created and added to the cluster. Real quick on here, you'll see that the best part is about this is not just creating a new LUN or not just adding a new system and booting it up, but the whole manual process of actually adding it to your virtual cluster, where that is automated too. So integration into vCenter, into ensuring that we work seamlessly in a VMware environment, and this data center is based on VMware, and Virtual Center is also automated, right? You see that the new system that we're going to have, it's going to get added down here, and it's going to come up as a new host in the cluster. This is AIM showing that the system is on and up and running. You're going to see in a little bit that that system is going to get added here. You saw that the map data 5 got added here. And so, and you'll see the next screen when it gets added, and the infrastructure event. There you go. That system is getting added there. It's in maintenance mode, and it's going to be coming up real quick. Fundamentally, what we did see was the whole action of end user coming down and requesting a VM, getting it automatically done. But at the same time, infrastructure-wise, there were events happening that has to be managed automatically too. And that is also happening, in this case specifically, just a simple example of a physical machine being added to the VMware cluster with an ESX host on it, image on it, but also, and the LUN being added to add more capacity to the cluster, and the infrastructure, the concerns in the infrastructure being remediated and auto-remediated. But then that is just a showcase of a small capability, but the whole idea being the extensible workflow availability that you can actually do to integrate into your existing monitoring tools or provisioning tools and stuff, ensure that you have an automatic, auto-remediated, integrated environment to take care of your infrastructure problems, but also, on the other hand, expedite service delivery to end users. Right. With that, we're going to open it up for Q&A.
So thanks, Ganesh. So I just want to highlight that a few things. VMworld asked us to request that there is a mobile survey that you fill in for the session. So please feel free to do that. So what Ganesh highlighted is one workflow wherein we're doing an end-to-end automation of these key components of VIS. So what the key takeaways I would like for you guys to have is we are offering a solution that gives you capabilities to build a dynamic IT environment. And the key differentiators that we have against the competitors, I believe, are one, our strong capabilities to allow you to leverage existing solutions that you have in your environment. Second, our capability to support a heterogeneous environment, be it hardware, software, or hypervisor. And third, the capability to support a physical and virtual environment with the same set of tools, with the same set of feature capabilities, be it physical or virtual. Right? So that pretty much summarizes what we wanted to talk about today. We'd like to open it up for questions and answers in the next 10 minutes.
Right.
Who wants to go first? Yes, please.
Sure,
Yeah,
we'll
please.
I have a couple questions about the automatic volume provisioning that you have on the EqualLogic through the system.
Yep.
So when that happens, you set up settings to say like what block size you want that LUN to be.
Yep.
And so any block size that's available, I can go ahead and format it that way.
Correct.
Does that also automatically configure the multipathing?
Yes, it does. So it's really about, so what we have today is it's customizable. So I think in our demo, I don't think we have configured multipathing. But yes, we can configure multipathing from the cluster down to your storage.
Automatically?
Automatically, yes.
Okay,
right.
And then the other question I had about that was, so it knows when it needs to create a new volume on the EqualLogic, but is there also monitoring capability that it would know whenever free space on an existing volume is low enough, and so it should perform some type of storage vMotion?
That's
So the what it can monitor is really an open item in the sense of it's up to you to go define what metric you want to track. So when you talk about storage utilization and
What I mean is, for example, I set up a volume, and virtual machines on there are thin provisioned.
Okay.
So I would over provision my volume, but I still might have, let's say, 20 to 40% free space available. And what I would want to do is I would want a system to monitor that and say, all right, whenever free space gets to be 5%, something needs to move off onto a new volume.
Got it. Okay. So I think the quick answer is, out of the box, that capability does not exist. But from a customization perspective, we have our EqualLogic APIs that can let us inform us of that capability, and we attach that to VIS Director as another special metric that you want to track. So the answer is yes, we can, but out of the box, that capability is not offered in our phase 1 solution.
Right, and here's the other thing that about VIS Director, right? You can create your own custom alerts, and then you can create a custom workflow as an administrator to say, do this particular action when this alert happens. So as Ranjit pointed out, right, so it's not something out of the box where you say, this workflow is already in there, but then you can create an alert that says, monitor this particular data store. If the storage utilization goes below 20%, right, and I don't need this running, so perform this action. And there you can define this, perform this action as maybe, the EqualLogic API call you want to make a particular call, you can do that automatically. So yes, answer is yes. Sure. Yes.
Are you able to loop that back to the vCenter hardware module that call space select for resources?
Not to the vCenter chargeback module.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I didn't quite hear.
The question is, in Self-Service Creator, we showed the particular cost associated with the particular VM.
Correct.
The daily cost.
Right.
Can that integrate back into Virtual Center's chargeback module to add on into that? So to me, it's an API call, right? It's, again, in terms of there is workflow, the entire Self-Service Creator, if you look at it, and I mentioned there's the whole life cycle of a VM, you can insert specific workflows in there, on your own to say, okay, after you go ahead, after a user request a virtual machine, perform this action. And then I can drag and drop and create a workflow to say, send a vAPI to the chargeback module and populate that particular field. Yes. So again, it's a question between out-of-the-box versus thing. And I want to kind of stress on what Ranjit mentioned, right? Open and integrated doesn't just necessarily for us mean going ahead and having it, just have the ability to do all the different choices. It's also about maintaining your existing investment and having the ability to integrate into that, right? So that's where we wanted to say.
I think one thing I'll add to that is out of the box, that capability you're talking about, we have that with VIS Director. So we think of VIS Director as our primary platform for cost allocations, driving all the other aspects of cost on Creator or AIM, to that matter. So integration into chargeback would have to be a custom workflow. Yeah.
Well, here's a question.
Two questions. One, how much do I have to do on that physical side to prepare the machine to be controlled? Do I just plug it up to the rack and give it power? Or do I actually have to install ESX or ESXi?
Oh, so from AIM perspective, you mean? To boot up a new system and have a...
Yeah, it takes a server, it provisions it, and then it adds it. And then my second question is about the IP allocation. Are those dynamic IPs, and how many do you give the service console versus network, or is it...
You can define it as policies. The second question is easy. You can define it, say, this is, add it to this DHCP server, use this range, and it'll automatically use that and use it from the thing. Even go to an extent of actually saying reuse IPs, it'll do that for you as well, right? The first question, his question was about, how much do you have to know about that particular server to bring it up and have it up and running? What AIM does, Advanced Infrastructure Manager does, is actually, as long as we can target the server, we'll boot it into Pixie first, and then we're working on trying to do out-of-band talking to iDRAC and stuff, and bring it up, configure the network settings to give it a virtual MAC address, virtual IP address, and map it to a storage, to a SAN boot image, so it automatically boots into that.
So, and that's the capability that allows us, the lack of any dependency from a hardware perspective is what allows us to support a heterogeneous environment.
Exactly.
And that's very important, right? We treat Dell and non-Dell the same from an AIM perspective.
Oh, I know.
Two-part question. Part one. Is it just the hardware or software, or is it a combination of both?
Oh, the actual solution that you get? You want to answer that?
Yeah, so the question is whether it's a hardware plus software or just a software. You can buy it just with software to get the feature functionality. So if the question is, can you just buy this as software? Yes. There is absolutely no dependency that it has to be on a specific kind of hardware. Now, having said that, we do offer prescriptive guidance on if you don't want to have to do a POC in your environment of figuring out things in terms of a performance or feature functionality perspective, we have best business-ready configurations. What that is it's a combination of prescriptive hardware, a set of servers, blade chassis, whatever form factor, with a EMC Clarion, EcoLogic array, whatever, and the software solution, and we'll give you best practice on how best to configure them to get the best for your money. But there is absolutely no dependency. You can just buy the software and configure it yourself on a brownfield Dell or non-Dell hardware. Does that help? So the software itself is a license on a per socket basis.
Yeah.
So so that's the licensing model that we have. Looks like you may have some specific questions, and we can discuss that offline.
So actually, one of the things, feel free, everybody, like booth 401 down there, we have all this running, individual consoles that you can actually, we'll show you individually, like each of the components of VIS. You can walk into it, walk through it, have those detailed discussions as well. We have a whiteboard out there so to address these specific questions. I'm sorry.
So I got two parts. Basing on this question, let's say I unlock a new server, toss on the rack, whatever, is it
It's today it's Pixie based. Is that what you asked? Yeah.
How's it going, man?
My second question is it possible to use this technology to take an entire environment of servers, of physical servers, and go
Replicate.
but use those existing servers as the VM cluster?
So you're saying you have a bunch of physical machines? Yeah. Answer is yes. A bunch of physical machines. You want to take that workloads off it, put new virtual machines on top of those physical machines, and put it in there. Yes.
Also, an extension of that question is, let's say I've got a wide range of hardware, some aged hardware, some brand new cutting-edge hardware. Will VIS assign, or will AIM assign weight to those servers, and how they allocate what AIM's on where?
So make sure I understand.
Tier.
So you have go ahead.
I've got an old, Power Edge 2650.
That's old, but yeah, we'll take it.
And then I've got also like an R710, so that's dual 6-core,
Sure.
41 gigs of RAM or whatever. Will VIS apply weight, give more priority?
Yes. Yes.
It's not something they have to configure.
So you can, you have the freedom to configure the priorities, but you can do this either from AIM or you can do this from Creator. So if you're using this in combination, Creator is what we position Creator as your workload deployment and as a decision maker on what goes where. But when you create these resource pools and tiers that we identified in just from AIM, you can have like a workflow saying, my first priority is this pool, second priority is the second pool, and third priority, and so on and so forth.
You guys have been piggybacking off.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we don't change vCenter at all. As actually, we make it a point to make sure that vCenter has the absolute right information. So if we change and move VMs around based on what needs to meet our requirement, we'll percolate all that up to vCenter. Yep. Yeah.
And feel free to walk up to our booth, and we'll all be there, and the whole team will be there. And no, this is exciting because thanks everybody, whoever's left here, and then it was great talking to you guys.